Hi, Nancy here, and I'm creating this video to discuss some of the things you should consider once you have taught IEW for at least 1 year. So this is for teachers where this is your second time going through the IEW curriculum, or maybe your third year. A couple of things to keep in mind. One, think about how things went previously. What was really challenging for you? Was there a particular unit that was hard? Was it knowing when to introduce the next dress up or sentence opener? Maybe you didn't like the source text that you used, or you want to tweak your checklists, or you need a better place to hang up the posters, or you need new posters. Just think about the things that could go better based on your experience last year, and make some notes, make some tweaks. But also think about what went well. Kind of celebrate those moments and think about how you can try and repeat some of those successes in the upcoming school year. And then also find out, for example, if your students did IEW the year before, see if you can get any information from last year's teacher about this particular group. Was there something they really enjoyed? Did they really like the fiction writing? What are some things you could build on from the year before? And if there were any particular students or areas of concern, then that teacher could share that with you as well. So remember to begin at the beginning. Do not start in a later unit simply because you know that the students got through Unit 5 last year. Don't start in Unit 6. Always begin at the beginning. Students who haven't used IEW before are going to need to start there anyway, and odds are you might have one or two or even more students who've never done IEW before. But even those who are experienced, give them a chance to kind of teach it and review it. And this can go very quickly. You might spend just one day reviewing how do you create a keyword outline sentence by sentence from a paragraph. That's going to be super easy if your students have done this a bunch, and can kind of make it fun. See who could create the fastest keyword outline, or put them in partners and see who could come up. Just give them some little challenges. So you can go really quickly through those first units. If all of the students in the class have done it before, especially, you can get through that pretty quickly. But it is important to solidify the ground rules with them. What are the rules of keyword outlines? And how do we do this? Okay. Pace out your year. Try not to spend more than a month to 6 weeks on any particular unit. Now, if you're teaching really young kids, obviously you're going to need a little more time on certain units. But look at your school year and make a goal for what units you want to get through. I'm going to say in middle school years, especially starting in 6th grade, you should be getting through a minimum of all 7 units. And by 8th grade, you should be getting through all 9. So keep that in mind as you're preparing your lessons and pacing them out. Remember also, your goal is not that your students are going to create perfect writing. We are improving their writing skills. We're having them practice skills again and again, and it's going to feel a little repetitive. Once something is really easy, you can take it off their checklist. So if you're teaching students, they've done IEW for a while, and everybody always includes ly adverbs, okay, you can take it off the checklist. You don't have to worry about requiring it when it's really easy for them, but don't take it off too soon. I also don't recommend allowing students to pick what's on their checklist. They will always pick the things that are too easy and not want to practice the things that they need the practice on. Revisit the checklist that you used last year to see if they need to be tweaked. We kind of talked about that already. But make sure every single assignment does include a checklist, and please give it to them before they write the rough draft. This is a great way to review the assignment by going through the checklist with them. I would encourage you to have students read out loud something that's on the checklist and then have them put it in their own words and kind of explain it. It's a great way to find out if they understand what the requirements are. Then also, if they come back to you later and ask you a question like, when is it due? Or does it need to be typed? Or do I need a bibliography? You can just say, hey, check your checklist. That's on your checklist. Go look at your checklist. And it gets them in the habit of looking there first. Make sure that you allow students, as they're writing, to mark up their checklist a little bit. I would have them just put a little dot in a box when they knew they had that done. And then when it came time for me to correct it, I would just put a slash through it, or I'd use a different color pen or whatever you want to do. But please let them write on the checklist. If they've written too much on it, you could always print a new one when you're correcting. Checklists are so helpful because they really make scoring a writing assignment really objective. Did they fill a requirement on the checklist or not? It's very easy. And then also, if you have older students, I found once the students were like in 8th grade, and especially in high school, they want to know how many points it's worth. And not that you don't want them putting effort into a 20-point assignment, but if they know it's a 100-point assignment, they tend to take it a little bit more seriously. Always, always, always require a keyword outline. Do not make exceptions. Make sure they know they have to turn it in, because that makes sure that they do it. You might not always look at it, but if I find a paragraph that just isn't going well, I will look back at the keyword outline, and sometimes you can see, oh yeah, I see this sentence doesn't make any sense, but clearly they didn't understand what was on their keyword outline. They use some of those keywords, but in a way that doesn't make sense. So it's really can be helpful to understand where they might be going wrong. Make sure they hand write their rough drafts. A few reasons for this. One, it makes sure that they have a handwritten or that they have a rough draft and a final draft, especially if you require the final drafts to be typed if your students are older. Make sure they write every other line, because that encourages them to make changes. The idea of the rough draft is we're just getting our ideas down. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that's really where the learning happens, is when students are revising their work. So if we really want them to learn, we really want them to have a rough draft. Final drafts, like I said, older students are usually typed, but younger students, of course, it's more appropriate for them to handwrite it. As they get older, start requiring the MLA format. We do have a handout that we use here at school. Final drafts should be every other line in case there needs to be a last-minute change. Always give them an opportunity to rewrite their final drafts. This is a really key idea in IEW. Again, that whole idea of when they are revising their own work, they're really learning and growing in skills. This can also happen as you work through the units and you start teaching them how to write introductions and conclusions. A wonderful way to do that is to take body paragraphs they've already written. In that case, I have the students, when they turn it in with an introduction and conclusion added to it now, part of their grade also is on, did they make the revisions? So if I had made comments on their final draft, did they make those changes? So it might be mechanical changes, or they had missed punctuation and now they have it, or they fixed a misspelled word. But it could also be something like, this was a fragment, it's not a complete sentence. Did they make that a complete sentence now? Okay, so that can be a really great opportunity for learning. Take notes as you correct your students' writings and use that as you're making the next lesson plan. Okay, so if you find out, wow, they really struggled with topic sentences, their topic sentences really didn't fit the rest of the paragraph very well, well, then on the next writing assignment, make sure you really model that for them. And as you're creating the keyword outline, make sure they have good keywords in that space for the topic sentence. Stick to the easy +1 formula. I talked on a previous video, if you watched that one when you were a new teacher, about having separate checklists can be helpful, or making certain elements on a checklist as extra credit for students who aren't ready to move on to a new skill. Try not to require new skills too quickly. Again, trust the system. Don't skip units. Don't teach them in the wrong order. Don't stay in a particular unit too long. Just trust the system and keep moving through it. Keep teaching them new things as you can, and each year the students are going to improve. We are in this for the long term. So don't worry if you feel like they don't know everything they possibly could know about writing a basic report paragraph like in Unit 4. Choose what is an appropriate goal for the age level you're teaching. Have them master just that part of it. For example, maybe for a younger student in 3rd or 4th grade, maybe what they just really need to master in Unit 4 is looking at a source text and choosing what is the important information to write about. Maybe it's not the minor detail about the size of the tail fin on this fish, but maybe it's that these fish are only found in the African continent or something like that, okay? Then remember to continue to ask questions and talk to other teachers, talk to me, use the IEW website. There are so many resources, tips, and answers to your questions. And then on the flip side, please be willing to share your best practices. If you found a source text that the kids found really funny or interesting, you can share that with another teacher. I don't know, just a lesson that went really well, a way to introduce a sentence opener that was fun or interesting for your students. Please talk to each other and share that, especially with the newer teachers who aren't as familiar with the program. So thank you so much for your dedication to our school, and thank you for really doing such a great job in helping our students to grow in their writing.